Just a little spiritual video for anybody that's interested. I am not a qualified spiritual teacher. I want to be extremely clear about that, but I love, 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 love Buddhism. It is my heart practice, it's my spiritual practice. Um, I started integrating the Dharma into my life somewhere during the pandemic between 2020 and 2021. And man, did it change my life in all the best ways possible. So this is my, like all the teachers that I love, everybody talks about the life of the Buddha. This is my very brief explanation of the life of the Buddha and how it embodies the path toward enlightenment. Okay, this comes from the Tibetan traditions of Buddhism, and I am not a qualified spiritual teacher. I just want to stress that one more time. And also, this is the first time I've done something like this. This is very raw and unfiltered and unedited. So please enjoy if you want to watch this. I think it could be a fun little experiment. So if you don't know who the Buddha is, he was born, I'm just going to call him the Buddha the whole time, okay? So the Buddha was born into sort of I think what's called a warrior class. And so he was expected to grow up and become like a warlord or a chieftain in his community. This was roughly like 2,500, 2,600 years ago, someplace in India. Sorry, I don't know all the technical terms. I'm very new to this. I'm just practicing. Like one day I hope to be, maybe in a future life, I'll be like a great Buddhist monastic or whatever, and I'll do all my little wonderful teachings and yada, 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 spread the Dharma that way. But right now I'm just practicing for that potentiality. So that's who the Buddha is. His mother dies at birth, and his father, well-intentioned, receives this takes him to see like an oracle, and she explains that, okay, well, your son's either going to grow up to be a great spiritual teacher, or he's going to grow up to be a great like unifying chieftain or whatever, a military conqueror. So the Buddha's dad's like, yes, I want the conqueror. So he sets about engineering a life for his son that is just perfect. It's nothing but bliss, the best food, the best clothes, the best women. It's what happened. There's an arranged marriage. Of course, you can imagine that's kind of how it worked then. I think still much of India today, arranged marriages are still very much a thing. So that's what the Buddha's life is. He doesn't see sickness. He doesn't see old age. He doesn't see death. He certainly doesn't understand what a spiritual path is at that point. Because why? Why would he need to? Anyways, he starts to do these little trips out of the I guess it's a castle. Sorry, I don't know what you call it. But anyways, he tiptoes outside of the palace. We'll call it a palace, and he goes into the village for the first time, and he has his attendant with him, and he sees somebody dying or dead, a dead body. You can imagine, like, this is a jarring, like, oh my God, you're kidding me. We die? I didn't know we die. That would be a very startling revelation for any of us, right? To realize that and never be told of death. I mean, come on, or just see death that way. Maybe he heard about it, but he hadn't seen it, he hadn't experienced it. You know what I mean? God, it must have been awful. And so, but he goes through this same sort of experience a few times. So he sees the person who's sick, person who's and it's like, we suffer, we get sick. This is our inevitable fate. What is this? Why are we here? So these questions are just brewing inside of him. And by this point, he's married. It was like, I think in his late 20s, early 30s. It's an arranged marriage. Sometimes I hear from the feminists who are like, oh, the Buddha, he left his wife and child behind. I think he gave his wife her freedom when he left. I could imagine that he did love her, but he was in an arranged marriage, and leaving her alone, giving her freedom to just. Anyways, that's different story. Sorry, this is terrible. I'm gonna get an F on my little Buddha treaty. So, what happens? He decides he has a son, he has a wife. He has all these princely responsibilities. And he's like, you know what? Figuring out these answers are more important to me. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go seek out enlightenment. This is what's called renunciation, okay? Renunciation is a pivotal part of the Buddha's life and our life as well. It's the realization that we have to get out. We have to escape. We have to find a way to make a meaningful attempt at finding genuine, lasting peace and happiness. And how do we do that? Where does that come from? We all struggle with this question, and so did the Buddha. So the Buddha bounces. He leaves the palace walls. All of his wonderful food, and just adopts the attire of an ascetic. So it becomes like this wandering yogi, learning all the different meditations that were popular in India back then and still are very popular today. but he never quite figures it out. 6 years, and he starves himself. He's like on the border between life and death, just this extreme asceticism. I'm like, there are statues or figurines you can find of the Buddha. Here, I'll show you one. This is from Thailand. Oh gosh, I'm gonna do this all wrong. Sorry. You see his ribs? You see that? I love this one because this guy was committed. Um, but this is very extreme. Like starving yourself this thin to seek enlightenment. But it's such an important part of the path, and it's also part of this renunciation journey. Like he really renounces everything, probably a bit too much. And so, it gets to a point where he's sort of leaves his friends and the people that his teachers, his meditation teachers, and he goes off and sits under a Bodhi tree. I think in Bodh Gaya, India, if I remember correctly. And he's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to sit here until enlightenment happens. And it does. Thank God for all of us. It happens. He has that great enlightenment experience. That is not the end of the story, as we shall see. So he sees the interconnectedness of all things, understands karma, gets it, yada, yada, yada. It's important, but it's not important. Because what's important is actually what happens next. The Buddha then leaves, and he's faced with this dilemma. Like, I've had this profound insight. What would I do with the rest of my life? I mean, he could have just stayed there and chilled and just lived this blissful, peaceful, whatever existence. But decides, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to teach this. And he goes back to his friends, the people that he, the people that he was meditating with, his teachers from before. And he sort of tells them about his revelation. And it is profound and it's life-changing. And basically, it gives rise to this idea of the middle way, the two truths, the entire path. This is the second stage. It's called bodhicitta in Tibetan Buddhism. And it's this idea that we don't just want to free ourselves from the prison of samsara, but we also have to free our friends as well. It's not enough for just us to escape. We have to help everybody escape. So we do this by trying to help the people around us, the people that we know. And then the Buddha eventually goes back and teaches the Dharma to his father, to his wife, to his children. In some traditions, in other traditions, it doesn't quite work out that well. Like eventually, I've also read where his father's kingdom, or maybe fiefdom, I don't know what it was exactly, eventually gets overtaken and destroyed. His father dies, his wife dies, his child dies. It's a sad story. I've heard that one too. But it all goes back to, it's tough. Life is incredibly unfair. Samsara is unfair. It is the reason our existence is so problematic is that it can change in an instant. In a heartbeat, we could be at the highest of highs, and just we could have everything we could ever possibly want, and the very next moment it's gone. We die. Or there's a devastating flood, or a hurricane, or a fire, or, our best friend or spouse suddenly passes away, and then misery. So what do we do with that? So this gives rise to the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. There is cessation to suffering. Oh crap, I'm gonna get an F on this. So there is suffering. Oh man, I don't want to record this again. Okay, so there's Four Noble Truths. I forgot what they are right now. Sorry. Basically, what it is we're trying to figure out how to do is how to use our suffering as fuel for the path, right? We can't help the fact that we're going to experience pain in life, but we can help the fact we can change our relationship to this pain, or we don't have to suffer. Gosh, sorry. This is probably a terrible Dharma, but it's my first attempt. I've never explained this before to anybody. Fuel for the path. You use suffering to transform your mind. You're going to tame your mind through meditation. Meditation is very important. Gosh, this is terrible. This went on for 10 minutes. I'm still going to post this. You're taming the mind. You're training the mind. You're transforming the mind. Study, contemplation, meditation, wisdom, and repeat. Wisdom and repeat. Start with the Four Noble Truths. Find a qualified spiritual teacher. Don't listen to me. I probably just butchered this. If you're a Buddhist out there, I love you. I love all the Buddhist monks and nuns, all the folks out there who I've learned from. They're all over YouTube. There's some of them are on the... I love you. Goodbye.